Hey everybody, just wanted to take some time and create a follow-up video to the original video that I posted, mainly because I've been getting a lot of questions about what happened after the video stopped, and that's pretty much the question I got the most of. And I wanted to apologize because I had been down in Mexico, Rocky Point, for 4 days for spring break, and took a lot of pictures, some crazy pictures, and batteries were low when I was coming back, and coincidentally the video stopped right when I got out of the car. I don't know if that was good, like it was a cliffhanger ending, or if it was bad because some people say, oh, you know what, you didn't show what happened after you got out. So what happened was, up to the point of the video, I had felt like the officer was kind of using the agent was kind of using my friends against me. I didn't want to make them sit there in the hot sun, so I thought, okay, by law, we can't drive away from the checkpoint, but can I walk away from the checkpoint? There's no law against that. I'm not violating any rules of the road, so I'm like, I'm going to get out of the car, and I figured I could just walk to the next town. In retrospect, that was pretty retarded. It's a long way. They intentionally put the checkpoint in the middle of the desert. But on the other hand, I guess I would rather walk as a free man than ride in a car as a slave. So I get out of the car, and the cop, first thing he says is, "Are you threatening me?" Which is basically police officers speak for, "I'm about to beat you down." All you have to do is say, "Oh, what are you going to do about it?" Any kind of back talk, and at that point, he can legally beat you. So that's basically his little technical disclaimer. He has to ask that question. And I say, no sir, I'm just getting out of the car, you want to hold me overnight or whatever. And we kind of banter back and forth, and he eventually gets me all worked up, and I get real self-righteous, and I say, oh, I'm an American citizen, damn it, I have rights. And he's like, oh, well, you're free to go then. And, I kind of felt bad at first, like, oh, I failed. But when you think about it, this guy has probably done this. He said he's been on this checkpoint for years because he's posted on on the message board there, the comments section. He's been there years and years. I'm sure he's got a lot of practice. That was my first time, and hopefully last time ever to be in one of those checkpoints. So in retrospect, I don't feel bad that that I lost that little banter battle. But after I got back in the car and we leave again with my friends, my friend next to me turns and says, "What's the Fourth Amendment?" And I'm like, "You don't know what the Fourth Amendment is?" And she's like, "No, I don't know." And I explained, freedom from search and unnecessary search and seizure and all that. And so I kind of felt like, well, that was good that I stood up, at least for her. She'll never forget what the Fourth Amendment is now. So one point I wanted to make was, what happened at that checkpoint was not necessary. The agent knew I wasn't an illegal immigrant, right? But the fact that I challenged his authority, and he had to win. He had to win that argument with me, which is kind of dangerous because he's going to keep escalating it up until the point that I either get shot or something like that, or because he's never going to back down because he's the man with the gun and the badge, and how dare I talk back when I'm the citizen and he is our public servant. So police officers in general, and specifically these agents, have a whacked up idea of what their job is. It's not to win. And I want to show something. This is a picture of myself in my dress blue uniforms taken when I was in boot camp in Paris Island. So yes, I really am a former U.S. Marine. Hopefully you can see that if it's a good focus. So for all the people who say, hey, you're not really a Marine would never do that. What do you mean a Marine would never do that? Like Marines blindly follow orders? No. Hopefully, I risked my life for something, greater than following orders. It was to save my country, I thought at the time. And so the only reason I even brought that up, not that I want to say, oh, I'm a Marine, bragging about it, is the guy called me a kid. I'm like, oh, whatever you want, kid. And that kind of reminded me of when in the South, like, law enforcement would harass black people by calling them boy, because they were basically trying to lower their level mentally. And so that's what he was doing to me, basically saying, oh, kid, you're just some kid. I probably was about as old as that guy, because I was served in the Marines, and now, I was in college at that point, so I was probably as old as he was. And the other thing is, with these checkpoints, it's a fishing expedition, basically. the police want to pull you over absent any sort of probable cause. You're just driving down the road, minding your own business. They force you to stop and roll down your window so they can ask you a couple questions. And based on whatever their gut instinct is, they can say, oh, the dog alerted on your vehicle, or I smell something funny, or you look nervous. And at that point, they can then go into a full-fledged search and tear your vehicle apart, whatever they want to do. That's not the way our founding fathers intended our country to be run. And I wanted to mention, this is not about the drug war, because that's 90% of what they do at the border. The illegal immigration, we all know where illegal immigrants hang out, Home Depot. If somebody wanted to stop illegal immigration, they could. This is more about the drug war, and that's not what this is about. It's not about drugs. It's not about immigration at all. This is about our rights. I don't believe that the ends justify the means. I don't believe that if they are able to stop one illegal immigrant, that it's worth all the sacrifices of our rights. I think it's better that 10 criminals go free than one innocent person is held unjustly. And so, what rights do you have? The right to remain silent. The right to remain silent. Not only do you have the right to remain silent, it also means you cannot be forced to speak. They can't, Barack Obama couldn't pass a law saying every day we must pledge allegiance to Obama, because we have the freedom to not be compelled to speak. As you know, it's better to remain silent, because anything you say can be used against you. They can take something you say and construe it, find out you're lying, and it's better not to say anything. If you look in YouTube and look up "Don't Talk to the Police Ever," you'll find some really great lectures about why it's better never to make a statement to a police officer unless you have counsel present. And then, of course, the Fourth Amendment, which is freedom from being searched or detained without probable cause. Obviously, at that point, you're not free. You're there at the luxury of that police officer. It's up to him if you get to walk free or not. If you're going to spend a night in jail, that's not the way it should be. And the thing is, they talk about, these checkpoints are only within 100 miles of the border. Well, the ACLU recently came out on their webpage about 70% of the American people live within 100 miles of the border, if you include, Canada, Mexico, and our coastal borders. Because technically, if you live on the coastline, most of the East Coast is within 100 miles. You're within the boundaries of, the United States. So most of the people live within 100 miles of the border. So you think this may be just happening in some small desert patch of land, but it's not true. If we allow this to happen there, it can happen anywhere in our country. Also, the Fifth Amendment protects you from self-incrimination. So if they were to say, are you a citizen? And you're not, you can't be forced to incriminate yourself. So that just kind of shows that this is completely a retarded exercise. They are only able to get away with what they get away with because most people are sheep. And then the other question is, who has the burden of proof in this case? I'm in my own country, walking down the street or what have you. Am I guilty or innocent, without proof? Do we all need to carry our passports around with us at all times, just in case someone says, "Are you a citizen?" No. At the border, when I went through the border itself, I presented my passport. They searched the trunk of the car. I did not create a stir at all, because that's the border. I want to come in. Of course, I have to prove that I'm a citizen. But once I'm inside my own country, why should I be required to do that? And I want to make a point about how I kept asking, is that an order? And maybe it seemed kind of like retarded and dickish, but the point is, the police will always say, could you do this? Do you mind if? And they make you think it's they're just being a nice way of asking, but it's not. They're trying to trick you into giving away your rights. And so, in the case of my buddy who was driving the car, they said,